In a forest edge where danger wears a suit, a barefoot homeless girl named Asha discovers a trapped, powerful man. The millionaire Ethan Vale, gagged and bound by cruel fashioning of ropes. What unfolds is a tale of grit, moral reckoning, and a single act that binds unlikely allies in a mission beyond fear. Center, setting in stakes. Asha, hungry and weathered, shelters in the trees where danger is blunt and honest. She has learned to read the forest like a map of threats, not a playground. The encounter begins with a muffled cry and ends with a decision that could cost her life or salvation. Characters at the hinge. Asha, resilient, wary, morally acute, carrying a shard wrapped in cloth as a warning, not a weapon. Her question, "If I help you, will you hurt me?" frames her survival calculus as the narrative pivots from fear to responsibility. Ethan Vale, a corporate insider with confession in his eyes, confessing that a shadowy faction inside his company wants him silenced. His vulnerability, tied, gagged, exposed, becomes a catalyst for moral courage rather than self-preservation. Dilemma and action. Asha's choice to intervene hinges on trust earned in a single breath. She manages to free him enough to breathe and reveals a stubborn courage. Cut the rope, not the chance for justice. She asserts a plan to move towards safety, knowing the danger of being seen or heard by those pursuing them. Close calls. The duo slips through a waking nightmare. Follow pursuers, a roadside pickup, and a moment when a gunmetal path to law enforcement seems both a lifeline and a trap. Asha's mud-streaked shirt and Ethan's rope burns become emblems of the fight to survive and testify. The rescue and reckoning. At the roadside, a worker's intervention with a tire iron and a radio cry of police shift the tide. The kidnappers retreat, leaving behind the echo of a truth about power and complicity. Ethan's fingers worked frantically at the ropes around his chest, while Asha pulled with all her strength. The voices were getting closer, close enough that she could hear words now. "He better still be there, or the boss will kill us." "Relax. Nobody comes this deep into the forest. He's not going anywhere." The last rope fell away. Ethan stumbled forward, almost falling. His legs had been tied. So long they didn't want to work right. He took one step, then another, wobbling like a baby learning to walk. "Come on," Asha whispered urgently, grabbing his hand again. They ran. Well, Ethan limped and stumbled while Asha half-dragged him through the trees. Her bare feet knew this forest, knew where to step and where not to step. She led him around the thorny bushes, over the fallen logs, through the spaces between trees that were just wide enough for them to squeeze through. Behind them, she heard a shout. "He's gone. The ropes are cut. He's running. Find him. Now." He can't have gotten far. Terror gave Ethan's legs new life. He started moving faster, following Asha as she darted between the trees like a shadow. The forest was her home, her hiding place, and now it was trying to save them both. They ran, until Ethan's breathing sounded like a broken engine. Finally, Asha pulled her behind a huge fallen tree covered in moss and mushrooms. They pressed themselves flat against the damp wood, trying to disappear. "Don't move," Asha breathed. "Don't even breathe loud." They waited. Footsteps crunched through leaves somewhere to their left. Then voices, angry and frustrated. Where did he go? How could a tied-up man just disappear? Someone helped him. Look, footprints. Small ones. A kid, maybe. Asha's heart nearly exploded out of her chest. They were tracking them, following their trail like hunters following a wounded deer. Ethan looked at Asha with wide, guilty eyes. His hand reached out and squeezed hers, like he was saying sorry for getting her into this mess. But Asha squeezed back. They were in this together now. The footsteps came closer, closer, so close that Asha could see the shadow of a man pass by their hiding spot, just on the other side of the fallen tree. She held her breath until her lungs screamed. The man stopped. "I heard something," he said. Asha closed her eyes. This was it. They were going to be found. She had tried to do a good thing, and now she was going to pay for it. But then another voice called out from farther away. "Over here. I see something." The man near them ran toward the voice, and the footsteps faded. Ethan let out a shaky breath. That was too close. "They won't stop looking," Asha whispered. We need to get out of the forest completely. Get to where there are other people. Police. Ethan nodded, but his face looked worried. The police station is miles from here. And Asha. He paused, looking at her dirty clothes and bare feet. Why are you in the forest alone? Where are your parents? I don't have parents, Asha said simply, like it was a fact no more important than the color of the sky. I don't have anybody. This forest is where I live. Something changed in Ethan's eyes. They went soft and sad and determined all at once. You saved my life, he said quietly. A homeless little girl who had every reason to walk away. And you saved my life. Do you know how rare that is? How special? Asha shrugged, uncomfortable with the attention. My grandma said helping people is just what you do. Your grandma was right. Ethan pulled himself up to peek over the fallen tree. I can see the edge of the forest from here. There's a road. If we can make it there, we can flag down a car. What do those men see us running? Then we run faster. Asha looked at this man, this fancy, rich man with his torn suit and missing shoe, and realized something. He wasn't giving up. Even scared, even hurt, he was fighting. Just like her. Okay, she said. On three. On three. 1, 2, 3. They burst from behind the fallen tree and ran toward the light, filtering through the trees at the forest's edge. Asha's feet flew over the ground. Behind her, Ethan crashed through bushes, not caring any more about being quiet. Speed was all that mattered now. There, I see them. The shout came from behind them, and Asha's blood turned to ice water. Run, Asha. Ethan yelled. She ran harder than she'd ever run in her life. The road was getting closer. She could see the gray pavement now. Could see a car passing by in the distance. Safety. So close. Just a little farther. But the footsteps behind them were getting closer too. Stop right there, a rough voice shouted. Stop or we'll shoot. Asha's legs wanted to stop. Fear told her to freeze. But then Ethan's hand found hers again, pulling her forward, and they kept running together. The forest edge was right there. 10 more steps. 5 more steps. They broke through the last line of trees and stumbled onto the grass beside the road, gasping for air. Cars were passing by. Real people, normal people, people who could help. Ethan waved his arms desperately at an approaching truck. Stop. Please stop. Help us. But the truck drove right past. So did the next car. And the next. Why aren't they stopping? Asha cried. We look crazy, Ethan said, and he was right. He looked like he'd been in a fight with a bear, and Asha looked like a wild forest child. Who would stop for them? Behind them, 2 men burst from the trees. They were big, dressed in black, with faces that looked like they'd forgotten how to smile. One of them reached into his jacket, and Asha's stomach dropped when she saw the gun. End of the line. The man with the gun said, walking toward them slowly, like a cat playing with a mouse. Mr. Vale, you should have stayed quiet. You should have just taken the money and kept your mouth shut about what you saw. I saw you stealing from the company, Ethan said, his voice shaking but strong. I saw the fake accounts. The missing millions. I was going to report it, and you couldn't let that happen. Very smart, the man said, raising the gun. But being smart doesn't matter when you're dead. Asha wanted to scream, but her voice was frozen in her throat. This couldn't be how it ended. Not after they'd run so far. Not after they'd almost made it. A car slowed down on the road. Then another. People were stopping, watching the scene, pulling out phones. The man with the gun hesitated. Witnesses. Cameras. This was getting messy. Get back in the forest, the second man hissed. Now, before more people see. But they were too late. A big truck pulled over, and a man in work clothes jumped out. He was tall and strong, with arms like tree trunks. In his hand was a tire iron. Hey, the worker shouted. What's going on here? Why has that man got a gun pointed at a kid? The kidnappers looked at each other, uncertain now. This was spinning out of control. More cars stopped. More people got out. Someone call the police, a woman shouted. I already did, another voice answered. The man with the gun lowered it slowly, his face twisted with anger. This isn't over, Vale. You understand me? This isn't over. Yes, it is, Ethan said, and his voice was different now. Stronger, like he'd found something inside himself that had been missing. It's over. You're done. In the distance, a siren wailed. The two men looked at each other one more time, then turned and ran back into the forest, disappearing into shadows like evil spirits fleeing the light. Asha's legs gave out. She sat down hard on the grass, shaking all over. They'd made it. They were alive. The worker with the tire iron came over and knelt down beside them. You two okay? You need water? Medical help? We need the police, Ethan said. And yes, we're okay. Thanks to this incredibly brave young lady. He looked at Asha with tears in his eyes. You saved my life twice today, he said softly. Once in the forest, and once by not giving up when we ran. I owe you everything. Asha didn't know what to say. Nobody had ever owed her anything before. The sirens got louder, and two police cars pulled up, lights flashing red and blue. As the officers got out and started walking toward them, Ethan leaned close to Asha and whispered something that made her heart skip. I meant what I said. You have nobody, and I have everything. That's about to change. The police officers surrounded them with questions, notebooks, and concerned faces. One officer wrapped a blanket around Asha's shoulders. Another gave Ethan a bottle of water. A third officer was already talking into his radio, calling for more units to search the forest. Start from the beginning, the lead officer said, a kind woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Tell us everything. So they did. Ethan explained how he worked for Vale Industries, a company his grandfather started 50 years ago. He was the chief financial officer, the person who watched all the money. 3 weeks ago, he discovered something terrible. 3 of his top executives were stealing millions of dollars, creating fake accounts, making the money disappear like magic tricks. I confronted them, Ethan said, his voice steady now. I told them I was going to report it to the board of directors and the police. That's when everything went wrong. They grabbed him yesterday morning in the parking garage at work, threw him in a van, drove him out to the forest, tied him to that tree, and left him there to die slowly, where nobody would find him until it was too late. But then this angel appeared, Ethan said, looking at Asha with eyes full of gratitude. This brave, incredible girl who had every reason to walk away, and she didn't. She saved me. The police officer looked at Asha with new respect. Is this true? You cut him free? Asha nodded, suddenly shy with so many grown-ups staring at her. Where are your parents, honey? The officer asked gently. We need to call them. She doesn't have any, Ethan said quickly. She's been living in the forest alone. The officers exchanged looks. One of them made a note. Asha's stomach tightened. She knew that look. That was the look that meant foster homes and shelters and strangers deciding what happened to her life. But Ethan held up his hand. Before anyone makes any decisions about Asha's future, I need to say something. He turned to face her fully, and his eyes were serious. Asha, you saved my life today. You risked everything for a stranger. That kind of courage, that kind of heart, is rarer than diamonds, rarer than all the money in the world. He took a deep breath. I lost my wife 3 years ago to cancer. It's been just me and my daughter Emma ever since. We have a big house that feels too empty. We have resources, love, and room for one more person who deserves a real home. He paused. Asha, I want to give you that home. If you'll let me. Asha's mouth fell open. She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't believe what she was hearing. You want me to live with you? She whispered. I want to adopt you, Ethan said, and now tears were running down his face, mixing with the dirt and blood. I want you to have a family again. I want you to have everything you deserve. Safety, food, a warm bed, school, friends, a future, everything. Asha felt something break open inside her chest. It was too big, too much, too wonderful to be real. But why? She asked. I'm nobody. I'm just a homeless girl. No, Ethan said firmly, "You're the girl who saw someone in trouble and chose kindness over safety. You're the girl who refused to give up when killers were chasing us. You're the girl with a good heart in a hard world." He smiled. "My grandmother used to say the same thing to me, about keeping your good heart no matter what. I think our grandmothers would have been friends." The police officer wiped her own eyes. Even the tough-looking male officers looked emotional. "There will be a process," the officer said. "Social services will need to be involved. Background checks, home visits, paperwork. But Mr. Vale, given the circumstances and your standing in the community, I think this can be arranged." Over the next hour, more police arrived. They searched the forest and found evidence: the ropes, the tape, footprints, even a dropped wallet belonging to one of the kidnappers. Detective units started building a case. The 3 executives who tried to kill Ethan were identified and warrants were issued for their arrest. A news van pulled up, then another. By evening, Asha and Ethan's story was everywhere. "Homeless girl saves millionaire," the headlines read. "Acts of courage in the forest." When a child teaches us about bravery. But Asha didn't care about the cameras or the reporters. She cared about the woman who arrived an hour later. A girl really, maybe 19 or 20, with Ethan's same kind eyes. "Dad." Emma Vale ran to her father and hugged him like she'd never let go. "I was so scared. When you didn't come home last night, when I couldn't reach you." "I'm okay, sweetheart. Thanks to someone very special." Ethan pulled back and gestured to Asha. "Emma, this is Asha. She's the reason I'm alive. And if she agrees, she's going to be your new sister." Emma looked at Asha for a long moment. Then she smiled, a real warm, wonderful smile, and held out her hand. "I've always wanted a sister," Emma said. "Welcome home, Asha." Home. The word felt like magic in Asha's ears. 3 months later, Asha stood in her new bedroom, looking out the window at the garden below. Real windows with real glass. Real walls that didn't shake in the wind. A real bed with soft sheets and warm blankets. She still couldn't quite believe it was real. Downstairs, she could hear Ethan and Emma laughing while they cooked dinner. They did that now. Cooked together every night. All 3 of them. Emma was teaching Asha how to make chocolate chip cookies. Ethan was teaching her how to read better, patient and kind even when she struggled with hard words. School had been scary at first. All those kids who had families and nice clothes and full lunchboxes. But Emma went to the same school, and she made sure everyone knew that Asha was her sister. Protected her. Loved her. The 3 executives who tried to kill Ethan were arrested 2 weeks after that day in the forest. The trial was coming up soon, and Asha would have to testify. She was nervous, but Ethan promised he'd be right there beside her. "We face hard things together now," he'd said. "That's what families do." On her desk was a frame with a photo. It showed Asha, Ethan, and Emma at the adoption ceremony last month. Asha was wearing a blue dress that Emma helped her pick out. She was smiling, really smiling, for maybe the first time in years. Next to the frame was a letter from her new school. She'd been named Student of the Month for her essay about courage. The essay was about a day in the forest when she learned that being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing the right thing even when you are scared. A knock came at her door. "Asha, dinner's ready." Emma called. "We made your favorite spaghetti and meatballs." "Coming." Asha called back. She took one last look out the window at the garden, then at the forest visible in the far distance. She thought about the girl she used to be, sleeping under trees, hungry and alone and scared. That girl would be so proud of who she'd become. As Asha ran downstairs to join her family, she thought about her grandmother's words. "Don't let this hard world take your good heart." She hadn't. And because she'd kept that good heart, because she'd chosen kindness in a moment of fear, everything had changed. Not just for her, but for Ethan and Emma too. They'd all found something they needed: family, love, and the knowledge that one brave choice can transform an entire life. At dinner, Ethan raised his glass of apple juice. "A toast," he said, "to Asha, who taught us all what real courage looks like, to family found in the most unexpected places, and to never walking past someone who needs help." To Asha, Emma cheered. To family, Asha said softly, her heart so full it might burst. They clinked their glasses together, and the sound was like a bell ringing in a new beginning. Outside the window, the sun set in brilliant colors, orange and pink and gold, painting the sky with hope. Somewhere in that forest, a girl had once lived in darkness, but she'd found her way to the light, and she was never going back. If this story touched your heart, please like this video to help others find it. Share it with someone who needs to hear a message of hope today. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another inspiring story that reminds us all one act of courage can change everything. Hit that notification bell and let's spread kindness together. See you in the next story.